welcome back to the How to Film Skiing Masterclass. In this episode, we're gonna walk through all of the equipment that I use to film skiing. Let's dive in.
Feeling good, feeling great. Not a worry inside and I can't complain. Don't rain on my parade. Celebration over here, all the clouds go away. About time for us to shine. I don't know about y'all, but I need all of mine till then. Just unwind. Ain't nothing going on but a good old time. Say, hopped out the bed and turned my swag on. Looked in the mirror like, damn, you the one.
I believe that having the right gear can transform your footage from amateur to professional. But that doesn't mean you always have to buy the highest end, most expensive gear. I do this for a living. If you do this for a hobby and you don't want to spend as much money on this, that makes sense. But know that with certain improvements in technology and certain price points that you can hit, the better your footage is going to look and the more cinematic it's going to feel. And like I said in the first episode, I will be saying the word skiing a lot, but this applies to snowboarding or any other winter sport that you're trying to film in the snow. Before we dive into the equipment, which I promise we will get there, I'm going to reintroduce myself. I'm Rue, I'm an adventure filmmaker based out of Boulder, Colorado, and I've been shooting skiing professionally for about 8 years now. I've shot for some of the biggest brands in the outdoor industry, and I'm here to share all of that insight that I've learned with you. I've gone on some fun expeditions and created some award-winning films, mostly about inclusion in ski and snowboard industry, because I believe this is a sport and a place that everybody should be able to enjoy. All right, let's start with what you came here for, the cameras. All right, cool. And when it comes to filming skiing, your camera is really just a tool. It's your ticket to allowing access to some of these communities and some of these beautiful places. It really doesn't matter what camera you choose, but there are a few features that are nice to have when you're filming skiing and snowboarding. The first feature I look for is slow motion. Skiing is a fast-moving sport, and so having slow motion can really help elevate your film to the next level. Most of the time, I look for a camera that shoots in 4K, 60 frames per second, or if you're feeling fancy, 4K, 120 frames per second. This allows for extra slow motion. The second thing I look for is great autofocus. So many cameras have amazing autofocus now. And when I'm out on the mountain, I'm really trying to prioritize doing tons of other things, and manually focusing just is not really on that list. If I'm going for a very specific shot, I may turn it to manual focus, but most of the time, 98% of the time, I'm relying on autofocus to get the shot. Because I'm on skis, it's snowing, I have a bag, we gotta get the shot and we gotta move on to the next thing. So having autofocus that can track your skier is a really nice plus. The third thing I look for in cameras when I'm filming skiing is dynamic range. Dynamic range is basically how much information your camera can capture in the shadows and in the highlights. The reason this is important for skiing is because it's a bright environment and sometimes it's a really dark environment. If you're in the woods, the trees may be dark, the snow may be really bright. So having a camera with a wide dynamic range, meaning a wide range of information that it can capture, can really help elevate your ski film from amateur to professional. Although there's tons of other factors that go into picking a high quality camera, such as good battery life, resolution, good color science, ideally something with 10-bit for skiing is a plus. Dynamic range, autofocus, and slow motion are the three most important things that I look for. If you're just wondering, Rue, just tell me what camera to buy, I want what you got, your films look great, I will tell you. The camera that I choose is the Sony a7S III. This is coming in January 2024, so updates may come in the future, but I think this will stand the test of time, and here's why. The Sony a7S III has great slow motion, it's got great autofocus, and it's got great dynamic range. It has a ton of other features that are really nice. It shoots in 4K, 120 frames per second in slow motion. It's got great video stabilization, which I think is a huge plus in a camera as well, because I normally am not taking a tripod into the backcountry or onto a ski resort when I'm filming skiing. This allows me to be light and compact and nimble and help make everything so much easier. I can even film on my Sony a7S III at 105mm focal length, totally handheld. The lens is stabilized, the body is stabilized, and it totally works. The internal stabilization on the Sony a7S III, paired with the internal stabilization of some of Sony's lenses, can really help alleviate your footage by getting rid of bumps and shakes and all sorts of unwanted jitters. Lastly, I think one of the reasons the Sony a7S III really shines for filming skiing is it's super robust. This thing can take a beating. I have dropped this thing in the snow dozens of times. You blow it off, you dust it off, and you keep going. Compare that with something like the Sony FX3, which has an external fan on it where snow can get in and isn't as durable. That can maybe harm the camera, but I have dropped my Sony a7S III off of a wide range of mountains and nothing has ever happened, which is pretty awesome. I know that I can take this camera into a rough environment and it will survive and it will do great. which for filming skiing is sometimes a pretty rough environment on a camera. So the fact that technology works out in these cold temperatures and in the snow is a miracle in and of itself. So I love the Sony a7S III for that reason.
Oh, it's so cold!
Okay, now that we've talked about the camera, let's talk about the lenses, because the lenses can also be very pivotal in how the story gets told and what kind of image you're supposed to capture when you're on the mountains. When I'm out in the snow, I'm primarily using 4 lenses. You'll see 3 of them here. The 4th is the one filming me now. The 4 lenses are the 35mm, the 85mm, the 14mm, and the 24 to 105mm, which is what I'm filming on now. I was just about to say the 35mm is probably my favorite, but these are all kind of my favorite lenses because I can't really take much into the backcountry or onto the mountain anyways because I'm trying to save for weight. So the fact I only carry 4 lenses are the 4 lenses that I love. They're all good for different reasons. The 35mm is really good because it's sharp, it's crispy, it looks ideal for certain close-ups and interviews. The 85mm is probably my least used lens out of the 4, and it's great for portraits or close-up shots. I kind of hate changing lenses when I'm out in the snow, but if I need to, or if I'm shooting a commercial and I have the ability to shoot on a prime lens, I'll always take the ability to shoot on a prime lens because they're typically sharper than a zoom lens would be. One of my favorite lenses for low angle shots is this 14mm G Master lens. This wide angle just makes things look super sick. It's pretty hard to explain, but being wide angle and close to your subject can create a really interesting look for all types of action sports, but especially for skiing. Finally, my favorite lens is this 24 to 105mm lens. This zoom lens is a very versatile lens. It covers a wide range of focal lengths, and it's kind of something that I can just put on my camera and leave on my camera all day. It's f4, so it's not the sharpest lens that I have. But typically when I'm filming skiing, I'm not shooting f1.8 because I can't really track a subject with autofocus or manual focus that accurately anyways. So f4 is normally more than enough, especially in the bright snow. But if you were wondering, Rue, what is the one lens that I should buy to film skiing? I would say this one. It's optically stabilized, it's a great lens, it's versatile, and it's actually pretty cheap, coming in at around $1,000. For the quality you get, I think it's a pretty awesome price. All right, now that we've talked about lenses, let's put this back on the camera and let's talk about audio. Filming skiing is obviously about the visuals, but storytelling and great documentaries about skiing also include the sound. Crystal clear audio in filmmaking is really important. In ski filmmaking, it's also really hard. It's kind of the first thing that I throw by the wayside, but there's a reason. I think sound design can go a long way in the editing room when you're filming skiing, because a lot of the sounds that you want to hear with skiing aren't actually the sounds that you do hear. When you watch somebody go through powder, you want to hear this beautiful, blissful, soft, almost sand-like sound. However, the actual sound of going through powder isn't that. It will feel like that, but the actual sound that you will record in your camera is normally wind or a very, very, very quiet snow, meaning it's not gonna be high quality audio anyways. So when I make my ski films, I do have audio equipment that I prioritize and that I want to bring, but I will say it's kind of okay if you fix it in post. I know that's a controversial opinion, but I really think that being light and nimble and easy is better than being perfect. However, that being said, there are situations in which audio is the most important thing, and I'll walk you through what I use when those scenarios arise. My first piece of gear is this Rode VideoMic Pro. I would love to say that like this thing always lives on my camera, but in reality, it just doesn't. I hate having extra things on my camera, whether it's a cage or a microphone, and I will use it when I'm filming things that have sound, such as skinning uphill or talking, but most of the time on the downhill shots, I kind of take it off and put it back in my bag. I will say, if you're willing to put up with the hassle, I'd recommend it, but play around with it for yourself and see how you like it. If you hate it like I do, take it off and fix it in post. If you're not a great editor or sound designer, maybe leave it on and it's better that way. If you're getting hired to film skiing for a production company or for somebody else, make sure you have good audio so you can get hired back later. Other than this Rode VideoMic Pro, which I use sometimes, the thing I use most of the time is this Tascam DR10L. This is a lavalier microphone that you can put on your subject right here. Believe it or not, a Tascam DR10L is the audio that I've been using this entire video. Pretty much any video that you've ever seen of mine on my channel will have this audio in it. I think these microphones sound great, but having this for interviews or breathing moments or just general experiences of the skier on the mountain, this lav mic comes with me on every single shoot and normally lives on the skier for the whole day. And they also just came out with the pro version of this, which does time code, which is gonna be epic. So if you don't want this version and you wanna spend a little extra, check that out too. Now that we've covered the cameras, the lenses, and the audio equipment, I'm gonna walk through a few of my favorite accessories to help make every shot absolutely epic. One of my favorite accessories is the gimbal. Capturing smooth footage is one of the biggest challenges in filming skiing, and having a good, high quality gimbal can really help the production value of your ski film go from good to great, from amateur to professional. So I use one of the most beat up, janky gimbals ever, and it's actually shocking that this thing still works. I have lost a battery compartment, so I hold it on with tape. Some adjustment levers have just snapped off, so don't know what to do there. But this gimbal has stood the test of time, and it's clearly very rugged and still works. I do recommend it because skiing filming is rugged. So if you have a gimbal that you can chuck in a bag and you know is gonna be okay, that's a good product. This is the Zhiyun Weebill S. It's small, it's compact, and it travels really well. It also balances my Sony a7S III with the 24-105, which as you know is my favorite lens and camera combination. Because I travel a lot and I'm doing a lot of expeditions or I'm in the backcountry, having a small gimbal is really valuable to me. But I will say if you're filming at a ski resort more often or you're doing commercial work, I would actually opt for maybe a little bit bigger of a gimbal that's a little bit more forgiving when you misbalance it. These motors are great and they still do a fantastic job even when I slightly misbalance my camera on my gimbal. But if you have a more powerful motor, that means you can spend less time balancing and be a little bit more janky in how you balanced your camera on your gimbal, and the gimbal will still create smooth footage no matter what. A not very exciting accessory, but arguably the most important, is this ND filter. Filming skiing is bright, and if you don't have this little sunglass for your camera or an ND filter, I use this one by Tiffin, you can't expose your camera properly. I live in Colorado, and we are known for amazing skiing. Epic powder days and uncrowded backcountry lines are very common here, but it's so bright. We get over 300 days of sun here. So filming here is actually a cinematographer's worst nightmare. I would love to shoot just in cloudy, gray skies, but unfortunately it's bright. Having this ND filter really helps cut down on the brightness of the snow and helps create an even exposure all across the image. A few other quick accessories I have when I pack my bag. I always carry this Band-Aid tape because when you're needing to put a microphone somewhere or you're needing to fasten a broken ND filter onto your lens, this can really help. I also have this little air puffer thing. I actually don't know what it's called, so if you do know, let me know below, but I always just call it the air puffer thing. So air puffer thing, I use that to get snow and moisture out of my camera or out of my lens. Total lifesaver, would highly recommend it. Another little accessory I really like is this rugged SD carrying case. This can carry tons of SD cards and micro SD cards for your lavalier microphone or the camera. I find that I don't really shoot more than 256 gigabytes anyways, but if I were to and I didn't have any storage, I'd be super bummed. So I always carry this just in case I need to put another SD card in the camera. Another accessory I always make sure to carry with me is spare batteries. Sony a7S III has really good battery life, but even still, it might die if you're shooting a lot, so I make sure to bring these just in case. Depending on how long the shoot is, I'll normally bring 1 or 2. I've never had to shoot 3 full batteries in one day, so then I know I'm always covered in case batteries die. Depending on the shoot, sometimes I'll bring a GoPro because that's just an angle people are familiar with skiing, so I make sure to bring it just in case. Finally, the last thing I will bring is a drone. I use the Mavic Air 2S drone and I absolutely love it. It's small enough that you can put it in your bag and not worry about it, but it's big enough and has a big enough sensor that the image it captures is beautiful. It's also great in low light, which when you're filming in the evening or at sunrise can actually really help. The battery life is good, the image is good, it's a camera that flies in the sky, so I don't have to rent a helicopter. Basically, drones are awesome and whatever you get is gonna look sweet. Just make sure if you're filming with drones that you have the right permissions to do so. A lot of ski resorts don't allow drones, so be aware of that if you're trying to drone in an area that you're not allowed to. You could get in big trouble. Next, we have the camera bag that I use. This camera bag is like $25 on Amazon and I love it. And it is definitely not the highest quality camera bag, but I love it. It just fits everything I need perfectly. Each camera can fit in its dedicated spot, each lens fits in its dedicated spot, so everything has a place and it's super accessible and easy to use. I'll normally only use this bag if I'm filming at a ski resort because everything fits in and it's easy and nice and I don't have to worry about avalanche safety. If I'm filming in the backcountry, I'll bring another bag. So let me walk through what that one is. This is my other camera bag, and you may notice that it has not camera or ski gear in it. It's got all of my climbing equipment in it. So let me empty that real fast. I love this bag. Clearly, I use it for climbing, I use it for backcountry skiing, I use it for camera stuff. It's just a kind of great all-in-one bag. As you can tell, it doesn't have any camera dividers in it. It's literally just an empty bag, but I love it. It's got a Peak design clip for me to fasten my camera to, and all of my other safety equipment and accessories can go in the bag. Most of the time I'll put the camera accessories like ND filters and the air puffer thing and tape in the top pouch, along with batteries and any extra lenses, while my layers and essential skiing equipment like beacon, shovel, probe can go in the main pouch of the bag. My biggest piece of advice when it comes to picking a bag is try something and see if it works for you. I've tried a lot of the big, expensive, bulky mountain gear camera bags and they just never work for me because I like quick access to my things and I like everything to kind of just go in. I don't need everything to be organized and to be perfectly protected all the time. I need things to be packed efficiently so I know where things are so I can move well in the mountains. If you have questions on bags, there's tons of good articles out there. I unfortunately am just not totally the guy to tell you which bag to buy.
Sometimes I just like to have bags that I can take out and plop in the snow and maneuver around rather than having to open my entire bag with all of my backcountry skiing equipment and layers and snacks and all the other things.
As far as skiing equipment goes, I will also say I am not the guy to talk to about ski gear. Although I love camera gear, ski gear is something that I just honestly don't really understand. I've worked with a lot of ski companies and they tell me all about their specific features, and although in the moment I find them really impressive and interesting, I could not regurgitate them back to you. So in terms of what skis are best for backcountry skiing, what boots are best for backcountry skiing, what bindings are best for backcountry skiing, I genuinely don't know. And I honestly don't really care. As long as the skis, boots, bindings, poles, and whatever are comfortable and they get me to where I want to be, I'm totally happy. So as far as specific gear and specific brand goes for skiing, I encourage you to just do your research, and odds are if you're watching this video on how to film skiing, you might already be a skier yourself, so you might not need that information. But if you do, leave a comment below and I'll do my best to answer with the experience that I have. And like I said in the first episode, if you're going into the backcountry to film backcountry skiing, make sure you have the correct safety equipment, beacon, shovel, and probe, and have taken an avalanche safety course to make sure that you're filming and doing everything responsibly. All right, well that was clearly so much talking and so much walking through gear, but hopefully that gives some insights into what equipment you need to film skiing, because the right equipment can make your life so much better and really up the quality of your ski film. The cameras, lenses, gimbals, and equipment that I lay out here hopefully will help get you to that next step. If you're like, oh Rue, like I don't have what you have, like I can't make a good ski film, that's not true. You can make a good ski film with creativity and your phone. So go out and try new things. The tools I lay out here are just tools. These are part of a trade to help create meaningful stories in the ski industry. Take this as an opportunity not to go out and buy a bunch of stuff, but to go out and create something with what you have and know what features and accessories and things may be useful for you down the line in your filmmaking journey. In the next episode, we're gonna be talking about filming with a gimbal. So much of creating a good ski film, especially at a ski resort, comes down to knowing how to use this quickly, efficiently, and in pretty rugged environments such as snow, bad weather, crazy slopes, trying to balance it while you're skiing. All sorts of fun things we'll walk through in the next episode. You can listen to me talk all day, and there may be some learning and valuable information in here, but the real learning happens out in the snow. So before you watch the next episode, pack up your gear, get your cameras ready, and go out in the snow and film some skiing. Get creative, stay adventurous, and I'll see you on the mountains. I love you, I'm proud of you. Have the best day ever.